Hi everyone, Hare Krishna. Welcome to Wisdom, the Nectar of Devotees. Today we have very special guest, His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami Maharaj. It is my honor and gratitude to Maharaj is present here. He's so kind. Bhaktimarga Swami Maharaj joined ISKCON at age of youth 20. At the time, he was college student of fine art. He initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1973. His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami is a ISKCON Guru and GBC. He is an instructor in Bhakti Yoga, Kirtan, and interaction dancing, wide known for the passion of performing art. He has taken an active role in writing, directing, morality, and theatrical production that are presently all over the world. Productions scripted and directed by him are Jagannath Story, Demon, Dhruva, I Need You, Lonely Person, and so many. He also directed such ISKCON classical, Big Fish, Small Fish, The Age of Kali, and so on. His latest production film called Ruling the Dice. This is wonderful, extraordinary film. 5,000 years ago, Mahabharata story, one part is game, dice game. He marched to this age, modern, dress also modern, and it is very extraordinary. So I humbly request everyone, please watch, you get different taste. I will put link below. His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami popularly has the walking monk. His works are extensively and internationally featured on radio, television, in newspaper, and film. In 1996, I was in Singapore. That time, one morning, I see that daily newspaper, this big heading, Western monk is walking across the Canada. And government appreciate that. And newspaper is sold out. I get one. I want to buy two, but I got one because too much demand. After 1 week, they have another heading, monk on the road. That means Singapore have 1,000 over Buddhist monk. They are walking in the road because of influence for the Maharaj in 1970. So this is very effectively work, and government appreciate this for health and this. So it is extraordinary. And 2000, I think 2002, I moved to Montreal. That time I have opportunity to meet with Maharaj. So I was Montreal, Canada. Maharaj is based in Toronto. He always going Montreal. I am coming to Toronto. And that way I have opportunity to associate with him. And I feel he's very friendly, merciful, kind, and helpful. I consider him my spiritual instructor, Shiksha Guru. And today our topic is experience with Acharya of ISKCON. So before I pass Maharaj, and we'll start, then after that we have question and answer. So I request you, please stay at home. Hare Krishna. So Maharaj can start with, then we have to go question and answer. So this is like how you experience with Srila Prabhupada and what is the main things that you attract for Hare Krishna movement in the early time.
Thank you very much, Sachipran Gauranga Prabhu. I didn't know you had that other part to your name. Thank you. And I just wanted to say I very much miss my visits to Calgary and your community there. And you are all well aware of the circumstances that makes it challenging for people to just move around. So because of a virus, and this is one feature of Kali Yuga, the age in which we live. Many viruses come and go, and you have to try to dodge them when they come. And in some cases, we have to accept them, and then hopefully our immunity is built up. So I would say that my time with Prabhupada, which was never one-on-one, but I had a chance to see him, was like a way to build up my immunity against Maya. So I would just love to tell you some of my experiences. I'll just start off with an invocation mantra. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktimarga Swami Namani Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine. Those are mantras in glorification of the Guru, and then also specifically our Guru, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement. So I think I'd like to begin by saying that my first encounter with Prabhupada was through a magazine. I managed to acquire a Back to Godhead magazine, and in the inside cover of the magazine is a picture of Prabhupada. And it was a picture which showed his teeth. He had a big, broad smile. He had big ears, which he normally has, and some hairs coming out of the ears. And he also, a very pronounced nose and eyes. And, I had not met anybody from India before in a real intimate way, because immigration policies for Canada was just starting to open the doors. So, but the reason why I was drawn to Prabhupada was because, I was fascinated by Indian culture, music, and Eastern thought. And I wasn't exposed to it because our upbringing, the portrayal of Indian culture was not that good. Usually we got the impression that, or what was projected towards us, as vulnerable students at that time, was, oh, India's the land of many people. There's too many. They're all crammed together. It's a land of snake charmers, and they let their cows eat all the food, so people go hungry. That was the kind of imagery. But putting that aside, I saw a movie just a few months before I came to the movement. It was called 9 Hours to Ram. And it was produced in the late 50s, if I'm not mistaken. I remember Gene Simmons was in there. And it highlighted the few hours before Gandhi's assassination, and it kind of focused in on the assassin. And I was kind of just intrigued. Oh, wow. Even the opening is like got Indian music with tabla and sitar. And becoming very popular at that time was Ravi Shankar. And then we were seeing that the Beatles, our heroes at that time, were going to Rishikesh. And there was an ashram there headed up by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So whatever the Beatles did during my period of the counterculture was something that drew our attention. And we thought, okay, the Beatles are into India. They're into Indian clothes with a Nehru collar. And they have a guru, a teacher. So maybe there's something to this whole Indian culture after all. So when I met Krishna devotees, I said they were all Caucasian fellows with shaven heads, and that was very odd, because in those days everyone had they sported long hair and facial hair, mustache, and you had to have sideburns. Was totally fashionable in those days, in the 60s and into the 70s. But I looked at that magazine. I was really impressed. I looked at an article by Hayagriv, and he was talking about his first encounter with Prabhupada, the Hare Krishna movement founder. Hayagriv had gone all through India, and he was looking for a guru himself. He couldn't find anybody that really, let's say, that he was intrigued by. So then he went back to New York, and then he met this Swami, and was about standing about 5 feet 3 inches, big, and he was thinking, oh wow, this is very nice. I went all over India looking for a guru, couldn't find him. Now I come back to my place of birth, America, and I'm finding a guru. So the movement started, and that was 1965, and got registered in 1966. And so my experience with Prabhupada was through his devotees. We understand philosophically that you don't go to God directly. And the whole idea about us was go back to God where we came from. But you can't approach God directly, just like Prabhupada would oftentimes explain. You can't go to have a real special time with the President of the United States. You have to go through different channels. You have to jump through different hoops, to get there and actually have some kind of serious communication. So I met with the devotees, and they told me about dieting. I mean, going for a vegetarian diet and starting to chant on japa beads and so on and so forth. So I did that, and I joined eventually in 1973. I gave up my art career and walked away from my sculptures and paintings and whatnot I was working on. It was the calling to Krishna was so great. I decided I just have to go and live with the devotees and try to be like a monk. And I knew I could pull out at any time if I wanted to. But the minute I set foot in that temple on Gerrard Street in Toronto, I felt like I've been here before, or at least I've been in a place like this before, in a previous life, perhaps. And I went through a weekend of experience, not with Prabhupada there, but with his devotees. So I understood that to get to Krishna, at that current time, you go through Prabhupada. But to get to Prabhupada, you have to go through his devotees. And we call this parampara. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajasyo vidu sakaliniha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. So the way to get to God is through the disciplic succession, and historically, transcendental knowledge, the science of the self, was transmitted that way. Okay, so I lived a life in the temple through 73, 74, and in 75, early 75, I had the good fortune to travel to the States. It was in February, well, January and February. And as everybody knows, if you're in Canada in January, February, you will not fry, but you will freeze. So for us to do public kirtan or to distribute books, it was made sense to go south of the border to the States. So I went with a group of young men, and we kind of traveled around and followed Prabhupada, who was going through America, North America a lot in those days. It was Atlanta, Georgia, and Prabhupada was going to be there for the weekend when his guru was going to be honored for his appearance day. So this was just a great sensation for us, our little traveling party. And Prabhupada was there. That was him. All the pictures I've seen of him, all the lectures I heard from him, which came on tapes in those days, and the books, everything that he wrote. Now I see him in person. The spiritual master of the universe, which is what he was to us. and still is. So I remember we saw him on a Friday night, and the temple was packed with other traveling Sankirtan parties, what we call the Radha Damodar parties. And they had big buses, and they turned their interior bus into a temple. And there were a few of them traveling around through America. And so we came into the fold of all this high spiritual energy. And Prabhupada then took the liberty to tell us about when he was a college student in Scottish Churches College in Kolkata. And at that time, Prabhupada was a little skeptical about sadhus and rishis and holy men, because some of them used to come to his home, and his father was liberal in inviting them over for having some prasad. That's what pious grahastas do. Householders would offer food to sadhus who may be hungry or need a meal for the day. So Prabhupada saw some of these in his youthhood, and he wasn't that impressed with all of them. So he wasn't that excited when his college classmate, Naren, told him, come, I want you to see this very nice, saintly person. And Prabhupada was telling us in a letter, at that time, I was not so interested. And my friend practically had to drag me to see Bhakti Saraswati, which is the name of his guru. And so Prabhupada told us about that event. Then we were all sitting there, we were intrigued with the story, and he decided we will sing a song now. We'll sing a song by a great saint, Lochana Das Thakur. And it is a song, it starts like this. Parama karuna bahudu vijananitai Gora Chanda Sabavatar Sarashiromani Kibala Ananda Kanda. And the song is about two personalities, that is Chaitanya and Nityananda, who are very spiritually evolved persons and incarnations of Godhead. And they're described in the song as being two great lords, and they're very kind. And they kickstart an unending, joyful festival. They're so powerful that they cause people to be moved by them, and that even stones will melt. So Prabhupada was singing this song, first time we heard it, and he was also playing the mridangam at that time. At the same time, it was all being recorded. And he was not playing on the mridanga for a long time prior to that. So it was a very special meeting. I can understand from that visit that Prabhupada cherished Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he also liked Atlanta because the kirtans were really nice. And their primary deities are of Chaitanya and Nityananda. He also liked drama. So on the Sunday, the devotees organized a drama whereby Chaitanya was meeting with Chand Kazi, the Muslim leader at the time. And, you know, the cultures coexisted, the Hindu and the Muslim, but there was always some kind of undercurrent agitation, you know. But relatively, there was peace. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then was meeting with the Chand Kazi. There was an altercation. It was a reenactment of when the Muslim leader, Chand Kazi, decided to break the drum because it's making noise. And his loyal followers, who were actually Hindu pundits, asked him, he's got to stop, get this crazy man to stop chanting in the nighttime and so on like that, and in public places. So Chand Kazi took the liberty to break the mridanga and said, I'm the authority here, and you all have to do what I say. So Prabhupada was enjoying the drama very much. And I was peeking at him, looking at the drama, so I could see that our guru, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, was very much into entertainment, presenting the philosophy, the culture through entertainment. So those are the few things that I gleaned from him when I was in Atlanta, Georgia. Then the second time I saw Prabhupada was in Chicago. And I was lucky to be on some morning walks with Prabhupada. Prabhupada would be taken a little before 6 o'clock to a nearby park that was not so far off from where the temple was. And so I had the good fortune to hear him, and or to see him at least. Just going back to Atlanta, the first walk I had with Prabhupada and a group of people was in Atlanta, and it was in February, as I mentioned. It was actually quite cold. And we'd be walking, and I'd be walking kind of a little bit almost like sideways with my ear to hear if Prabhupada was saying anything, because to us, anything he would say was like gold. So I was, directing my ear towards him, and I was behind him. Maybe 15 to 20 people. And it was a little hard to hear him. So I remember while trying to catch his words, I rammed my head against a steel post, like a municipal light, and it made such a large noise. Bang! And it vibrated. And one of my devotees I was traveling with, he said, shh, shh. Well, I didn't create the noise. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to listen, and I had a big bomb shaped on the edge of my mouth, got a reaction. So second time around in Chicago along Lake Michigan, Prabhupada was walking with some of his sannyasis who were Americans, Ramananda Swami, Vishnujan Swami, there was Satsvarup Swami, Goswami, and I was trailing a little behind with 2 or 3 other people, and a cyclist came by, and he pulled over, and I remember very clearly, he pulled over right kind of in front of me, and when he did that, Prabhupada stopped, because he could see the boy was interested. And the cyclist, bicyclist, he said, "Excuse me, but I have a question." And Prabhupada was like this, yes. Said, my question is, why is it that some of you are carrying the sticks and some of you are not? And Prabhupada asked, what did he say? And then Ramananda repeated it. He was wondering why we carry the sticks, the dandas, which is what sannyasis have. They have like a holy staff, you can say. And then Prabhupada thought about it for a minute, and this is where I caught his humorous side. He said, tell him we have the sticks to shoo away the dogs. Okay, so everybody had a good chuckle on that. Actually, the danda represents, it's formed by 4 bamboo rods, thin rods, representing that you are surrendering your body, your mind, and your words, and your soul. And they're all wrapped up with saffron cloth. And that's what the danda is all about. So then we had a good chuckle, and the boy said, okay, well, you ask a stupid question, you get a stupid answer. And I remember saying to the boy, it wasn't such a stupid question. Anyways, you're talking actually to somebody who's very, very special. So consider yourself fortunate, like that. So that was one thing. And then we were also walking along on another morning along Lake Michigan, and we came to the end of the park. We were walking on this nice grassy green area, and we came to the end of the park, and then Prabhupada decided that he would stop here, and then devotees wanted to have a picture of him taken. It's one of those real classic photos of where he's standing there with a great shutter on. And so the devotees who were there couple of sannyasis, and the photographer, Vishaka, were kind of fussing with him a little bit. They helped him with this chutter, it's just that the folds are nice. And then one devotee says, Prabhupada, can you turn over this way a little bit more? And then another devotee said, just helped him with his hands a little bit. And they were fussing so much to a point where Prabhupada said, I will stop here. And he smiled. You cannot satisfy all of the people all of the time. And so Vishaka took a photograph of him. So from that lesson, it was another one, a light moment with Prabhupada, but he was also telling us about something about the principle of life, that you cannot please 100% of the population. You can't even please 50%. Those people who are married know that you cannot satisfy your spouse a lot of the time, even though you may try. It's very, very difficult, very tough. It's a difficult assignment. So, I mean, it was just a statement that Prabhupada made that was profound to me. And I also, so I saw Prabhupada there in Chicago once, that was in 75. And then 76, I met Prabhupada in Detroit. And because I was younger, I was becoming part of a second or third wave of people joining. And I was a shy monk, shy brahmachari. I wouldn't dare ask Prabhupada a question because there would be people around him. And I'm sure that if I spoke something, I would be so shy to the point I would probably stutter. I would be awkward in my questioning. And then I'm sure everyone who was listening to me was just, well, who are you? So there were humbling moments. So I decided I would just listen. In Detroit in 1975, our temple was on Jefferson Avenue. It was a rented building, a nice place. The temple room was on the top floor. And Prabhupada gave the Sunday lecture. And now I was working very hard. I never had enough sleep, to be honest with you. As you know, we get up early in the morning and you try to sleep by 9 o'clock, but that's oftentimes difficult. So in any case, we worked really hard. So even during the times he was talking, during the Sunday program, what we call the Love Feast, I was nodding out. I was going like this for lack of sleep. And I wasn't that far from him, from his vyasas on his chair. And throughout the whole talk, I was just nodding out and I was feeling so tired. I'd wake myself, oh my God, how can I do this before the guru of the universe? So I was thinking, oh, I'm such a lowly person. I'm so insignificant. I was feeling it to some degree. That verse from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expresses that you have to be humble like a blade of grass, be tolerant like a tree. So I tried to be that, but I was still so exhausted. The summer sun was hitting hard and so on like that. So where he was sitting was a little bit like a profile for me. And I just remember he finished up his talk, his pravachan, with just holding his finger up like this and putting it a little bit projected in front of his face. And I was getting his profile, his side view. He says, do not be proud. Prabhupada used that statement, do not be proud, which is really at the base or the foundation of the devotee sentiment. In Bhakti Yoga, we try to exert love for the Lord, but that love has at its base humility. And so that was the only thing I remember from the whole talk, because it was so it just caught me at the end. This is the last moment. I better make sure I hear this one. Do not be proud. Okay. So I think, like on that subject of pride, there's no problem with being proud that you are a devotee, that you are a Vaishnava. When Hayagriva first met Prabhupada in New York on the Lower East Side, Prabhupada held his head high like an aristocrat. He carried himself as he was proud to be a Vaishnava, even though his clothes were kind of traditional and didn't always necessarily fit into New York pop culture. But the Prabhupada was fearless, and that's the way he came, and that's the way he presented himself, to be proud to be a Vaishnava, proud that I'm a servant of Krishna. But that doesn't mean that we should, and he told us many times, we should respect all other religious traditions. And any religion that teaches love, what we call prema, love of God, is something that is valid. It has credit. So we're not supposed to carry on as I'm better than you. You're a meat eater. You're a dog eater, a cow eater, and therefore you are nothing. You cannot come across as a condescending person. We have to respect all people and only encourage them in the spirit of bhakti. Krishna states that in the Gita as well. Nabuddhi bedam janayed. Means that even if people are not so bright, we should not discourage them from doing what they're doing, but to somehow or other inculcate into their lives a sense of bhakti, devotion, love for the Lord. Whatever you do it for God. Chapter 9, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying, whatever you're doing it as an offering for me. So that, notion that we should not be proud is something that I can remember. It sticks in my head. That imagery was so strong. When Prabhupada came to Toronto in 75, he had a look at our building. We were in a crammed, we had 40 to 45 people living in a 3-story Victorian house in Cabbagetown. And Prabhupada felt that you need a better building. So the devotees did find one that would suit our purposes. There was a church up for sale at 243 Avenue Road. And Prabhupada came over to have a look at it, and he liked it. He said, this will suit our purposes. It had a kitchen, it had lots of space, cubicles for Sunday school class, and so on like that. And, so he felt, and there was a big temple room and a balcony. And in those days, it was so unique, it was a real big catch. So Prabhupada was interested, and he let the people know, a Protestant group who owned it, that we are thinking about giving a down payment. But the people were managing it and owning it. They were moving from the downtown to the suburbs. They felt that they didn't want to mess with us. I didn't want to deal with the Hare Krishna. In fact, they said, we would rather burn down the building than to sell it to A.C. Bhaktimarga Swami Prabhupada to get at the Hare Krishna movement. In those days, we had a kind of a stigma. So at one point, Prabhupada said, tell them, even before the burning line came out, that we will, if you let us have the building, we will install a murti, a statue of Jesus, and we'll worship it every day. Okay. Well, that's, that didn't fly. So somewhere or other, we got the building through the channel of one of our members who's from India, said we'd like to buy it as a Hindu cultural center. So then we got it, and then devotees worked very hard for the down payment of the building. And then Prabhupada came in 75. He sent us a telegram. There was no emailing in those days. Sent us a telegram, says, congratulations, this is a great triumph. Because he saw that the road on which the church is, it's like 60,000 motorists going by every day, and that people would see and know and recognize us. We told Prabhupada we'd have a big sign, neon sign, Hare Krishna. And he was very happy about that people would see the name of God. So all those things happened. And it was the first time in North America that Prabhupada saw at a Sunday program so many people of East Indian origin. So from the get-go, Prabhupada was talking to some people who have a Hindu background, and they were now coming to Krishna consciousness. He was spending quality time with them, speaking even in Hindi on the morning walks. And he was saying, please help these boys and girls, meaning the Western group. And so some of them took that to heart, you know. And so from the very beginning, Prabhupada had in mind that Krishna consciousness would spread with the help and the assistance of people from the land of Bharat. In fact, in his Sunday's talk, he quoted from the text Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there it says, Bharat Bhumite Haila Majursha Janmajara Janmara Sarita Karikara Para Upakara. That's in Bengali. I hope I said okay, Sachi Pran. Did I do okay? Because you can have my head if you like. If I didn't,
This is good. This is
you can
wonderful.
torture me if you like. You can whip me, give me 40 whiplashes if I didn't pronounce it right.
No, that's great.
So in this particular shloka or verse, it is said people who are born from that extract from the land of Bharat, from India, they should do good works for the world. And that good works translates into share the wisdom, give wisdom, give the gyan, give the information. And what is gyan? Gyan means to be able to discern between matter and spirit. It means to put priority to the essential side of ourselves, which is the spiritual side. We are Brahman. We are spirits. We're not matter. We're not Prakriti. We're not material energy. Material energy surrounds the Atma, the soul. So that Prabhupada was talking in those few days that he was with us in 76 from the Bhagavatam and the story of Prahlad Maharaj. And, he was just encouraging everybody very much. And those were some of the things that I learned from him. When one morning class, he was speaking, and one devotee, he was like doing some like stretching exercises during the class. He's going like this and going like that, stretching himself, maybe trying to stay awake. And Prabhupada made mention of that right away. Do not do this. Prabhupada was a disciplinarian person. A few other nice things that came out of his visit here to Toronto, like I'm right in the room here where he stayed. Next to me was his bedroom. I see my thumb, it's out this way. And where I'm sitting is just like 5 feet away from where he sat when he told the devotees it's okay for women to be gurus and that there's a precedent and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dearmost companion, Nityananda's wife, was a guru to many people. Janavi Devi was her name. And so it was Professor Joseph T. O'Connell who asked Prabhupada, are there any female gurus? Meaning teachers, spiritual masters. Prabhupada didn't really hesitate. He came right out. Yes, there are some female gurus. So also in the room here, he talked to some devotees more intimately. And he was talking about the temple president in Detroit. And some people were feeling that his sadhana or his religious practices were not very strong. And therefore, they felt that he should not be the president. And Prabhupada put a stop to it right there. He said, no, he's a good man. He was indicating, I like him. Let us not stop him. Let us simply encourage him to do his sadhana, to come back up to the standard that is required. And then, do that, take that approach first before you, so to speak, kick somebody out. So I, whatever I learned from him was through the devotees. In Detroit, 76, the devotees acquired a mansion, Fisher Mansion, which was had become run down, was abandoned. The neighborhood wasn't the best. And it was on the Detroit River. And I was quite close to Prabhupada when he was sitting on his vyasas on his chair. And he was talking about Ravana. And he was talking about how Ravana was trying to build a stairway to heaven, but he did not succeed. And I remember there's a story in biblical times, because I was raised as a Christian, a Catholic, the Tower of Babylon, which is kind of like a stairway to heaven. And anyone who grew up in the 60s or anybody who has an ear for music, you'll know that Led Zeppelin, they came out with that amazing piece of music called Stairway to Heaven. And anybody who starts learning guitar, you learn the strings from the Stairway to Heaven, which is all about a story about trying to get to heaven, but not being qualified to get there. And people are caught up in their material desires, and you have to qualify to be in a pure sphere. You have to yourself become pure. Prabhupada was very happy too that we acquired that building there as well. And so in 2 cities, he mentioned he prayed for both Detroit and Toronto that we'd be able to secure these nice, beautiful buildings. So that's so Prabhupada prays. He prayed. In fact, for that building, which was going for sale, he was sitting with a realtor, and Prabhupada was very bold. And Ambarish, the great-grandson of Henry Ford, was sitting there. Prabhupada just asked the realtor, sort of off the cuff, he was just going through his regular pleasantries in the beginning. And he said, "Can you just donate this to us?" And Ambarish was, kind of like, getting a little embarrassed, So Prabhupada was bold. He was a risk taker. I think that's one of the most prominent features of Prabhupada. He took a risk. He was 70 years of age, or just at the tail end of 69 when he came to America. And he just, he took a chance. Well, for his health, it was a little bit, let's say, gripping. And but he thought, let me see how the Western folks would take to this Krishna consciousness. And so with some risk on his health and other areas, he decided, well, let me do what my Guru Maharaj wants me to do. So from that gesture, we can understand that. Try to capture what the Guru wants and try to fulfill that. Make it your life mission. And now, so the ISKCON movement has started, and the Hare Krishna movement is fledging. It's like it's growing, expanding. And we, in order for us to stay healthy and strong, we must recognize Prabhupada's unique position, that he is in fact the founder Acharya, and that he's our main guru. He's the principal guru for everybody in the Hare Krishna movement, And nobody can really block you from communicating with him. It's all right to pray to Prabhupada, to ask for strength and so on, in order to get to Krishna. So I started off with my presentation by laying out the culture that, you cannot go to God directly. And that's something that Jesus used to say to his followers as well, that the way to get to the Father, the Heavenly Father, is through me. So it's through Guru that's done. So Guru is an exceptional person, but we are expecting that, like my understanding of Prabhupada is that he wanted us to continue growing. And sometimes he would just also say, now we have grown sufficiently for a while, let's boil the milk. Boil the milk means boil it down, let the moisture evaporate, and cook it down to more like the essence, the buttermilk and so on like that. Boil the milk. And then he would encourage everyone to open the doors. It's like immigration policies, right? Keep the doors closed. We have enough people right now. Oops, looks like we need a few more people to come in. So then they'll open the doors, and then they let a flood of people come in from other countries into Canada. So it's a little bit like that was his policy. He wanted us to be very serious about our sadhana, about our chanting, about our diet, what we're eating, that it should be prasadam. And he wanted us to be clean people. He wanted us to be honest. And one thing that sticks in my mind is that, not that he said it here in Canada, but I know he said it just as a universal message. He said, if you can't be a sadhu, like a holy person, at least be a gentleman. He just expected that people would be outstanding citizens of the country, be a good example. And as Francis of Assisi used to say, preach. And they said, And if you have to use some words. In other words, he was saying, example is better than precept. You know, show the way to the world by your actions, by your, not just your talks, but how you behave, how sensitive you are to others. So he wanted those kind of fine qualities to be, you know, let's say, embraced by us. There's 26 qualities. They're listed in text 1 to 3 in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, divine qualities. And so it's good for us to look at them and do a favor to Prabhupada by acting like perfect ladies and gentlemen. You know? And then if we do that, people feel they're in the safe sphere, safe atmosphere, and they'll be willing to listen to you, to what you have to say. So those are some of the things that I thought I'd drop by you about my experiences with Prabhupada. Again, I never once spoke to him, and that is the case for a lot of people who joined in, say, the early 70s. And the first takers were in the late 60s, but then after that, we grew, and there's always a kind of a divine wall around Prabhupada that was a little hard to come to him. Yeah, but I had the good fortune in Atlanta to cook my first doll for him on our traveling party that was based from Toronto. I was the cook. I volunteered to cook things. And so in my cooking, I got a lot of experience, but I never cooked doll before. So the temple cook in Atlanta said, "Excuse me, Prabhu," he's breaking up the temple period. "I need someone to cook doll for Prabhupada." Okay. And no one really put their hands up and needed no experience. So I just shyly told him, I can maybe do it. So I went and I made mung dal, which he liked. It had the shell around it. And I boiled it and I followed a simple recipe, put some jeera in there, a little bit of haldi and so on. But I was too shy to ask Prabhupada or to get someone to ask on my behalf if he liked it or not. Because I don't think I could dare it if he said, you know, potential maybe, yeah, lots of potential. So people say that when I cook dal now, it's really a special dal. And I think that maybe I got Prabhupada's mercy.
Mercy, yes.
Mercy is a kind of an inexplainable power that comes to you in a benevolent way and which is unearned. We didn't earn it, but somehow or other we became a recipient of a great favor. So I feel very blessed to have been in and around during the time of Prabhupada, but even if we missed the boat, for those of you who came later, it doesn't matter. We have his books, we have his pictures, we have his spirit. You can capture his spirit, and that's what's important. So are we doing okay, Sachipran?
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj, for your wonderful experience with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. We have a lot of questions. I just tell you. So one question, it is okay to giving question right now?
Yes, it's okay, but can you give me a minute? It's so hot sitting in the window here. Okay. I'm going to open the window.
Okay, sure, no problem. Sure, no problem. Sure, no problem.
There's one thing that I would like to say about the winter. Yeah. That winter is not a bad time. It is a time for contemplation. It's a time for meditation and planning for the summer. And I also feel that the air is really good in the wintertime. There's lots of prana, so I like to take advantage of it. So the sun is shining right in my face. I'm going to try.
Yes. So there is first question come. It is this little difference. When you joined in ISKCON, there is any issue with your family?
Yes, when I joined, my parents were feeling that it was a little awkward because I was raised in a Catholic background, and they felt that it was a perfectly good tradition. And I'm not doubting that at all. I just told my parents that, well, I'm going to be with it for a while, and I'll check it out. I did reassure my parents on several visits that I never left Jesus. I never left God. I just added on. That's all. And they were kind of proud of me after sometimes because they saw that I was happy, number one. And number two, they also felt that, well, my life is pretty wholesome and healthy. And whereas some of my other peers of the time, they weren't doing so good. Some of them were engaged in divorce, some of them were drinking, some of them were into drugs. And, like you could see that not everybody was so happy. But when I would come to see my folks, they could see I was very full of bliss. I have three sisters who are siblings, and I have two brothers. And we all really liked each other. I was the oldest. I was born, and a year and a half later, I have a sister who was born. A year and a half later, a brother was born. A year and a half later, a sister was born. And a year and a half later, a brother and a sister as twins were born. So we were kind of like fairly close in age. And we just backed up each other. My parents came from a European background from the Netherlands. They went through the Second World War. It was very hard. And they went through depression. And in many ways, they kind of froze, stayed in their country, if you understand what I'm saying. Just like some of your kids will say to you, oh, Mom and Dad, you're so old fashioned, We're not living in India, Well, you'll try to encourage your kids, but I can get a nice boy for you, or a nice girl. So, Dad, Mom, I'll find somebody by myself. And then they're about 30 years old, and you're starting to worry and bite your nails maybe. Oh, when's my kid going to get married? I want some grandkids, and I want them to have a full life experience with it. So that's a little bit of a challenge to me. I'm sure you're feeling that. So I would say that I was there for my mom before she passed away. I was there for my dad. Well, that came suddenly. We knew he was going deteriorating. And I think that, especially when my dad, he was a super dad. He got us to believe in God, and he helped us. He'd sit down with me when I was young, and he told me about the birds and the bees, what sex life meant, because I was too young. Instead of hearing it from the wrong sort, he took the time, and he got us a summer job. He helped us to open a bank account. He had us doing chores every day, and whether it was washing the dishes. And I used to milk a cow every morning before I went to school. And we would pitch manure, and we would work in the summer outside in the orchards, cherries, strawberries, tomatoes, tobacco, peaches, pears, you name it. So, I think we had a good upbringing. We really did. And I'm grateful for that. So one of my superheroes is my dad, especially. And, so for me, it's Krishna, it's Prabhupada, and it's my dad. So we left on good terms.
Yeah.
And because I was the oldest, therefore my brothers and sisters kind of respected what I was doing. I never got any of them to be even a vegetarian, except for one sister who decided she needed to do it for her health. Thank you.
Okay. Another question is, you are the popular in the walking monk. So one person is asking, Prakriti Mataji, so why do you walk?
Well, I walk because our bodies are designed for that. From head to toe, the whole vehicle is meant for walking. So I do at this point about 3 or 4 kilometers a day. It's not a lot. But when I've done my marathons, it's more like 40, 42 kilometers a day. And my purpose initially was to celebrate Prabhupada's 100th year. Had he been alive, it was like a celebration walk. And I also wanted to get out and meet people and meet the media and tell them what a monk is, show them this is one of the things we do, where our life is to be simple, we're supposed to downscale, and depend on the mercy of the creator, the creator. So there's some reasons like that for me walking initially. And after doing the first walk across Canada in '96, I liked it so much. It was so successful. I became an addict and I just started to walk more. And I've done a few other countries as well. So walking is good for you. Vehicles are not good for you. We should actually give our car a break. Or some people say, but we're in Calgary. We're in the prairies, Okay, great. You got great air. I've been to Alberta. Your air is very good. How can you take in the air if you're inside all the time? In fact, people get sick by being inside so much because the germs spread around the viruses. When you're outside, it's not the case. So I'd say everybody should take a little time outside and move that vehicle, that body, because it's the superlative form of exercise for the human body is walking. So I do it for my soul and I do it for my body. And you can do it too.
Thank you. So now another question, that one is your latest production is Ruling the Dice. So how you think this year 500 Mahabharat changed to the new moderation date with modern dress? So how you thinking this one is marches this age?
Well, the 5,000-year-old Mahabharata is really a display of human life, how people are, about their ambitions, and also about struggle and bodily identification. It's also a story of love and hate, romance and contempt, and also being at war. So that goes on today as well. We're no better off today than we were then. The unique thing about the Mahabharata is that we find there are people who are for or against God. And those who are for God, we can see that they prospered. If you look at the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, you can understand what that is, the summation of everything. If you have Krishna in your life and you understand Arjuna and you listen to their dialogue, you will have opulence, victory, morality, and all these good qualities and opulence. You'll have a good life. So we decided to do this production, Rolling the Dice, and we were in a difficult spot because it was COVID. Since we couldn't get the costumes that make it look authentic. And I wanted to put in a sort of interracial spin to it. So if we just do it according to what it was, then you'll have the people of, East Indian origin, and then it comes across as ethnic. And then other people may not be interested. So our idea was to have, a mix of people, kind of like the Canadian formula, and put it in a modern day setting. And so it worked because greed, which is really the most pronounced element in the story, is still existing today. In fact, if you look at current politics, especially in North America, especially south of the border, you can see that there's strong elements of Duryodhana there. And I think it was really important. The message that comes through in the end of Rolling the Dice is that downscale, simplify, walk away from those things that are holding you down devotionally. So the message is perennial, and so we thought to do it that way, just like a lot of Shakespearean theater groups, they take the script of Shakespeare, which is in rare, very refined English, and they put it into a modern day setting. It could be even like there's one famous film of Shakespeare that was done in Nazi Europe setting, so that's quite modernistic. But again, you have the idea of that the message is the same. The storyline simply repeats itself. So we thought the message could come through in modern day standards, and people could relate to it a little bit more, be relevant.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So I have few question more also. So Dipeshwar asking, how do you cover either COVID-19 situation?
How do I do what?
Yeah, covering in this COVID-19 situation is temple and our family life.
So the question is, how are we supposed to deal with COVID?
Yes, something like
Okay. Well, we're supposed to see that the material world, the sun is shining so strong. I'm going to move. I'm going to move into another room. How is that? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
I'm right now sitting in the bedroom where Prabhupada slept.
Okay.
Yeah. So how are we to deal with it? Well, you see, we're always told by Krishna, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, that there's birth, there's death, there's old age and disease. Vyadi, the last on the list, disease. So what's taken over the world is a virus that is forcing us to make adjustments. So usually where there's pain, you must adjust. If you're in a sailboat, the wind blows one way and you adjust your sails so that you'll keep going, you'll stay afloat. And when another current comes, you have to learn to adjust those sails once again so that you can be moving and again stay afloat. So this is an exercise now of depending more on Krishna, because for some people it may be a loss of jobs, it might be, the restrictions of movement may be very unnatural for us. So we just have to take it as tapasya. Tapasya is it's austerity, and austerity is good for you. It's one of the 26 qualities of a great soul. So why resist? If you want heaven, go to heaven and you won't have COVID. I don't think to the Swargaloka, well, up in the spiritual world. So be good and learn from it that I should adjust my sails. And if I become stubborn and say I'm not going to make any changes in my life, this is hocus pocus, I am not going to accept the directives that are given to me. I don't believe in it. I am resilient. I'm almost God. Nothing will bring me down. So it's kind of ego based, So let's. COVID is responsible for bringing back, some of the clean water, like even the Ganga is looking better today because people are restricted in what they're in their nonsense. So some good things have come out of this, like you see wolves and fox and and coyotes coming back and deer into the city where normally they wouldn't come because everything's a lot. Isn't that kind of nice? Wouldn't you say that's good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we should. You look at the flip side. Look at the positive side of everything, the bright side of everything.
Okay. Her second question is, what is the best and effective way to spread Krishna consciousness?
The best and effective way to spread Krishna is through sincerity. So what the reason why we spread Krishna consciousness is because we have compassion. Everybody knows we're born with passion, right? But what is called for is compassion, and that compassion means you have a heart for other people. And so you'll get the best results or effects from being driven by compassion for others. As far as techniques are concerned, well, I think it's good just to talk to those who are very good and expert and experienced in that field. What are we supposed to be sharing? there's three basic items that we're supposed to share with the people of the world: sacred food, sacred wisdom, and sacred sound. Okay, the food is prasadam. The wisdom is what's in our books, and then finally we have sacred sound, which is the mantras, the chanting. That's what the Hare Krishna movement has to offer to the world. That's what drew people to Prabhupada in the beginning, and it still will do that. So that, how do you do it? Well, you do it with some expertise. I'd say two elements need to be there: professionalism and devotionalism. Hare Krishna.
So one more few question also still here coming. So, okay, another question is like, when time of Srila Prabhupada, when you joined ISKCON, you were living in the temple, and nowadays you joined the ISKCON, you live in the house. So it is totally opposite. Why like that, and what is the? It is any positive and negative?
Well, when Prabhupada came, there was an amazing dynamic that happened in the world. There was the Vietnam War, and the youth of that day, of that time, they were very upset about that involvement. A lot of young people turned very anti-establishmentarianism. They were against the culture. They felt that even maybe mom and dad weren't such happy people, even though their parents provided, they didn't see that they were happy enough. And I think it's a little bit of naivety that many people decided to just kind of break away from the culture and become, say countercultural, moderate to extreme hippies, And but what was good about all of that is that some of those people learned some detachment. They understood that I should give of myself to Krishna. Because in those days, it's very different from now. In those days, you were moving around almost like a nomad, and you could roll out your sleeping bag, and people say, "Yeah, oh yeah, you can stay here for a few days." That was good in those days, It was like very open and very liberal,
Yes.
maybe too liberal, right? But it did open the doors for Prabhupada. Had it been a conservative time, I think Prabhupada may have struggled, but people were very impressed with this Swami from India who could give them everything. So people live in apartments, houses now, we have to live somewhere. But what I would propose is that, devotees, people who are listening, should try a little bit devotional life. Maybe sleep overnight in a temple or something like that if you can, if there's facility allowed, and see what it's like to get up in the morning and go for doing mala and helping a little bit in the kitchen and so on like that. So yeah, that's the way it was. But even though the lifestyles have somewhat changed, Krishna is still there. Krishna is the central position, and that will never change. Krishna is God, and the sky is blue.
Okay. Another question is, it is a little different. Who is the first disciple of Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON? It is man or woman? The question is woman or man? First disciple.
The first people that came to Prabhupada?
ISKCON, yeah.
ISKCON. Yeah, they were men. They were men. And some of them were of the gay community. And they were giving up all that stuff, And then some ladies started to come. When Prabhupada went to the West Coast, he was first in New York. Then he saw boys and girls were kind of coming together. And so he accepted everybody, The first initiated person was a man, Umapati Prabhu. He was the first person to receive a name by Prabhupada. But, quickly, the unique thing about Prabhupada was that he accepted both genders. He accepted everybody, anybody showed interest and who showed sincerity.
Also, same person asking Mataji, the woman can become a guru and sannyasi or sannyasi.
She's asking if a woman can
Women
become
can
sannyasi.
sannyasi
Well,
or guru in ISKCON.
There are female gurus, but they're shiksha gurus. They're instructing, they're teachers. We don't have at this point diksha gurus, but if you analyze it, shiksha is more important than diksha. It's the lessons that come to you is what counts and makes a difference in your life. Yeah, so sannyasi females, not advisable. Sannyasis are supposed to be able to kind of basically move around freely with not a care and have no fear. But if women were to walk as the traditional sannyasi would do, she would be exploited. So therefore, out of protection, it's not, that kind of life is not encouraged. But that doesn't mean to say that a woman cannot evolve. You know, both genders are allowed. Mang, Krishna says in the Gita, Mang hi parta yapasritya, yepi papayonia, striyo vaishyas tatashudas, tepi yanti parangatim. So that's Krishna saying, men, women, Brahminical people, let's say teacher types, visionaries, as well as laborers, and everybody has the opportunity to take up the spiritual path.
Okay. So another question is like, Toronto Temple is Prabhupada time?
Yes.
Now, yeah, it is Prabhupada time.
Yes, because Prabhupada was with us, you know, 65. He came to New York, and then he passed away in 77. And he traveled to North America several times. So during that time, we got this building, and we also got a church in Montreal at that time as well. During his stay.
Same temple is there, Prabhupada time.
Yes,
same temple.
That's right. The one that's on Preenov Boulevard in Montreal is still there, and the one we have here is still here. The one that we acquired when he was here in 75. We moved in January 76. So, yeah, it's still there. We intend to keep it that way.
Yeah, a lot of question, but I want to finish because timing also. So last question is here. That one is, what is your advice to the next generation of ISKCON?
My advice for the next generation is to say Krishna is a cool dude, and he is heroic in the sense that he's a philosopher. He saved Draupadi. He crushed a lot of, you know, evil doings, and so he's most pleased with his name. Like if you can get into kirtan, you know, play music. Hey, you're young, you're beautiful, you've got so much power and strength. So use it for God, you know, use it as an offering. And so I had encouraged kirtan amongst those people. You can encourage some dance as well. You know, they're at an age where they like to show off a little bit. So let them, you know, show off for Krishna. They're, I would just encourage them in kirtan especially, and if they're willing to go and do more. I think you can give them some responsibility. Hey, Janmashtami is coming up. Why don't you guys organize a festival? Let's hear your ideas. Or why don't you get behind the decoration? Or why don't you can get the youth, hey, why don't you guys cook the Sunday feast and give the old fogies a little break? Get them involved. Get them involved.
Okay, I just go last question, maybe final. We have few questions, but I don't go because of time. Last question is offering to Krishna. So, like now we have pizza, this, that. Anything can offer Krishna look like vegetarian, but modern is deity.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
Last question is like pizza, like what is called Western food. vegetarian
pizza.
Western food offered to Krishna.
Are you talking about pizza?
Yes, pizza,
Well, as long as
and this type of like Western food.
yeah, as long as the ingredients are sattvic, there should be no problem, right? Krishna doesn't specify. I only want Indian food.
Yeah, that's,
He says, Patrang pushpam palam te, yo me bhaktya praiti. He says, offer to me with love and devotion. And he didn't say that I only want food from Bengal.
yeah, like macaroni, this type cheese.
No, no. Krishna doesn't say, I only take milk from an Indian cow. He doesn't say that. It's just saying the food should be clean, it should be well prepared, and it should be nutritious, and it should be sattvic.
Okay, I'm going last one last, because lot of question, but I cannot go. Last one is vegan and vegetarian. What is you thinking? Because now people think of
Vegan or vegan
vegetarian,
or what about it?
vegan and vegetarian.
Yeah, but what's the question though?
Question is, most of people now attracting is vegan, but
Yes.
Krishna is like milk. So
That's
how it is work is
but
because
what
Krishna is
Krishna likes milk,
butter.
Krishna likes milk that is not connected to the slaughter industry. Krishna likes ahimsa milk, milk that's coming from a good source, where the cow's not going to be slaughtered and the bull will not be slaughtered. So if we can get that kind of milk, then we're doing good. We want to encourage people who are vegans. We want to encourage them, yeah, because they're very nice people. They're very non-violent and not aggressive types. So it's good to be in their company. It's really good to be in their company. Yeah, so both are good. You look at chapter 17, Divisions of Faith. It tells you what foods are favorable and what are not. So if you're a non-veg person, then you're encouraging violence. So that we don't want. So vegans are not known to do that. They're sattvic food. Some eat raw food, But I think you have to look at your body type and take those things which are favorable for your eating. Now we have to be a little careful about. I don't know what you mean by Western food. What you expressed was Italian food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when you talk about European food, it's more traditionally a lot of potatoes and stuff like that, and a lot of cheese. Well, one has to be a little careful about all this, cheese and a lot of these gluten-y type food are not so good for your health. White flour is very bad.
Bad.
White salt is bad. White sugar is bad. It's all really bad. The worst food is white sugar on the planet.
Okay.
Worst. And I hope that our temples can take jaggery or honey, maple syrup, makes or just don't have any. The sugar is in the fruit. And so we have to think about that. If you are taking milk, you are somehow connected to the slaughter industry. You're supporting it. It's nice that we can get away from it. I know devotees who are vegan, some who are vegetarian. Yeah, we like to drink milk, but we should try to find good sources. And if there's pressure put on the governments, we want good food where animals are protected, then they'll have to make some adjustments. But if we're quiet about it, then no change will take place.
So I think that's okay. Time is up. Thank you so much for your presence and this wonderful your expression of experience with Srila Prabhupada and Nectar from you. I believe all are benefited. And we are also invited next week. We are another program, same time is coming. So thank you so much for your
thank you, such a friend. My regards to all the nice devotees who are part of the community there, and anybody who's on this StreamYard, I think it's called Streamfield program. Stream something.
Streams, yes, and we're going to YouTube and Facebook or other platform too.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
I will.
Hare Krishna.